When my friends and I want to grab lunch together, there's often dispute as to where we'll dine. Luckily for us, we can always reach an agreement. Eventually. But let's say we don't. What happens then? Well, we don't eat. This is the exact same position that the U.S. government is in, as it demonstrates before our very eyes the impossibility of our politicians reaching even an inkling of a middle ground when it comes to the discussion of the growing debt problem in the United States. And this forces us all to a standstill. President Barack Obama, according to CBS News on December 11, 2012, you voiced your refusal to cut spending on government benefit programs such as Social Security and Medicare. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, you've sided with the president in discounting the government's ability to make alterations to these programs. Speaker of the House John Boehner, according to the New York Times on February 28, 2013, you've stated on numerous occasions that you will not be accepting any cuts, any alterations to the current tax code, just so you can toe the party line, despite your previous intentions to support such changes. This refusal to negotiate, led by three of the most powerful people in the United States, makes massive gridlock inevitable. This gridlock leads to sequestration, and sequestration is just a fancy word for block cuts. These block cuts are implemented without any regard towards efficiency and with no evaluation of the repercussions. Even more demonstrative than these slash-and-burn methods, which already pose a huge threat to our nation, is the continuing resolution. The continuing resolution is a temporary budget passed to ensure that the government stayed open for business for a few months, but still mandated that if another budget was not passed after the deadline of the previous budget, the government would shut down. In other words, the promise that if something is not done soon, our federal government's going to go and hibernate. But before we continue to discuss the continuing resolution, let's discuss the impacts of the sequestration to give us a better idea on why large amounts of uncertainty and partisan bickering can be detrimental to our nation. In fact, the results of the sequestration will be disastrous. Vital programs that need funding in order to carry out their purpose will be eliminated because of these cuts. But as devastating as cuts will be to these agencies, the impacts that the sequestration will have on the everyday American are far greater. According to ABC News on February 21, 2013, sequestration will put 125,000 Americans at risk of becoming homeless. Preschools will be cut, and programs for children with disabilities will be threatened with closure. Not only that, but food inspections will be slowed down dramatically, putting millions of people's health at risk. Because of this sequestration, it seems that America is reverting back to how it used to be in the 19th century. The thing is, this continuing resolution can be avoided, just like the sequestration could have been dodged. But because we were, and still are, so obsessed with sticking to our respective parties, there was, and still is, no room for compromise, no room to fix the budget in time to avoid budget deadlines. And now we're faced with the same scenario with even bigger consequences if we fail. This debt isn't solely a Democratic problem, and it's not just a Republican issue. The blame belongs to all of us. In order to work out a functional budget before the continuing resolution expires, Democrats must make cuts to agencies they hold in high esteem, and Republicans must cut their own politically important programs as well. The reason we continuously have this debt problem in the United States is due to the lack of bipartisanship and the inability for politicians to even consider making cuts to programs deemed politically important to their respective parties. When no one in D.C. is willing to sacrifice, no problems are solved. However, if each side were to give up something precious, then it's no longer partisan bickering. The process of these bipartisan cuts will show that they can make sacrifices and that they can, will, and should put the everyday American above petty politics. And with that, we'll be on track to restoring our nation. We can all agree that fiscal discipline isn't cutting program after program without any regard towards accountability of the programs in question. It's incontestable that both party sides refuse to be bipartisan, especially when considering programs deemed to be sacred, but in fact still have problems that can be ironed out for the betterment of the people. Thus, President Obama, Majority Leader Reid, Speaker Boehner, I ask that you make these bipartisan cuts to your programs. Cuts that are more than only budget choices, but signs of good faith. These cuts won't resolve the issue of the national debt. They will, however, introduce into D.C. real fiscal discipline that will, in time, solve this problem. Thank you.